In the stillness of remote forests, where the wind weaves through ancient pines and shadows stretch long across the forest floor, there exists a world that feels untouched by time. For generations, people have whispered about what lives in those deep, uncharted places, a creature mysterious, towering, and elusive. This is the world of Bigfoot, and tonight, on Bigfoot Encounters Radio, we dive into true stories that have left even the most skeptical listeners questioning what lies beyond the beam of a flashlight. These accounts come from hikers, hunters, park rangers, and everyday individuals who swear they saw something they cannot explain, something that defies logic, existing somewhere between legend and reality. One of the most gripping stories comes from a seasoned outdoorsman named Caleb, who had spent countless weekends camping in the Pacific Northwest. He had always brushed off Bigfoot tales as nothing more than campfire entertainment. That changed one fog-shrouded morning near Mount Rainier. As he quietly brewed coffee over a portable stove, he heard heavy footsteps behind him, not the shuffle of a deer, not the crackle of a bear, but deliberate, bipedal strides. When he turned, he caught a glimpse of a figure partly concealed between the trees. It stood impossibly tall, covered in dark hair, with shoulders so broad they seemed to blend into the surrounding forest. The figure didn't move aggressively, it simply stood watching. For reasons he still can't explain, Caleb felt a mix of awe and confusion rather than fear. Before he could speak or reach for his camera, the creature turned and disappeared into the mist with remarkable speed. The encounter lasted no more than 10 seconds, but it changed him forever. Caleb never returned to that campsite alone again. Another story comes from a pair of teenage siblings, Emma and Jasper, who grew up in a rural town bordering a stretch of dense Appalachian wilderness. One summer night, while riding home on their bikes, they heard what they described as a bone-chilling howl erupting from the treeline. It wasn't a coyote, it wasn't a wolf, and it wasn't any animal they had ever heard in years of country living. The howl was deep, resonant, and seemed to vibrate the very air around them. Jasper later said it felt like the sound traveled through his chest. They pedaled faster, hearts hammering. When they reached the bend in the road, the yellow beam of Jasper's bike light illuminated something standing on the edge of the woods. It was tall, at least 7 feet, its eyes reflecting the light in an eerie amber glow. The figure didn't chase them, it simply watched as they fled down the gravel path. When they reached home, breathless and trembling, their parents found their story unbelievable until neighbors began reporting similar strange screams over the next week. Then there was the account from a former park ranger named Linda, who had kept her story secret for over 20 years. On a routine patrol near a remote section of the Rockies, she stumbled upon enormous footprints pressed into the muddy banks of a stream. These prints were unlike anything she had ever seen, far too large to belong to a human and too defined to be the distorted tracks of a bear. She followed them for several yards before realizing they stopped abruptly at a wall of dense foliage. That alone wasn't the disturbing part. As she crouched to examine the final print, she felt the unmistakable sensation of being watched. The woods, moments earlier alive with the sound of insects, had gone unnaturally silent. The silence was heavy, suffocating. Without waiting to see what was nearby, she backed away and left the area, reporting the location as unstable terrain, to prevent hikes from wandering too close. For decades, she wondered what would have happened if she had stayed just a few moments longer. Many encounters share a common thread, the overwhelming feeling of being observed. Hikers tell stories of hearing twigs snapping behind them, only for the forest to appear empty when they turn around. Hunters describe seeing massive silhouettes weaving silently between the trees, moving with a speed and grace no large animal should possess. Some report the unnerving sound of rhythmic knocking echoing through the woods, almost like communication. There is something eerie yet oddly intelligent in these patterns, something that suggests the presence of a creature aware of us, even if it chooses not to be seen. One particularly chilling story comes from a family who experienced a restless night at a remote cabin they had rented for the weekend. After settling in, they noticed a foul, musky odor wafting through the open windows, an odor unlike anything they knew. Later that night, loud thumps shook the outside walls. The family initially thought it might be a bear, but the sounds were too intentional, almost as if something was testing the structure. When the father peeked through the blinds, he saw only darkness and towering trees, but the thumping stopped instantly, as if the creature sensed it was being watched. The next morning, they discovered enormous handprints smeared across the dusty back window, each print far larger than any human hand. The cabin owner admitted he had stopped staying there himself after multiple strange occurrences. Not all encounters are frightening, though. Some describe the creature as peaceful, curious rather than hostile. One botanist researching plant species in Northern California reported that she once heard soft, guttural murmuring while working alone in the field. When she turned, she saw a large figure crouched partially behind a fallen tree, studying her with what she described as an almost childlike curiosity. For several seconds, they simply observed each other before the creature stood and walked calmly back into the forest. She never told her colleagues for fear of ridicule, but the memory stayed with her, vivid and hauntingly serene. For centuries, indigenous tribes have shared stories of large, hairy forest guardians, creatures respected rather than feared. Many tribes refer to them as protectors of nature, shy beings who avoid humans unless provoked. According to these legends, Bigfoot is not a monster but a keeper of balance, a symbol of the wild's untamed mystery. Skeptics argue these sightings result from misidentifications or folklore passed down through generations. Yet, with thousands of reported encounters worldwide, it becomes harder to dismiss them entirely. Every person who shares their story speaks with the same unwavering conviction, the same lingering awe, as if they've glimpsed something extraordinary, something that challenges our understanding of the natural world. Whether these tales stem from truth, imagination, or something in between, they continue to captivate listeners. Each story invites us to ponder the possibility that we are not alone in the wilderness, that there are still secrets hidden beyond the glow of a campfire. Bigfoot remains one of the greatest enduring mysteries, elusive, intriguing, and forever woven into the fabric of storytelling. As long as there are forests left unexplored and people willing to share their experiences, the legend will never fade. So as you listen late into the night, let your mind wander through the shadowy woods and imagine what might be watching from just beyond sight. Perhaps the next great encounter is waiting to be told.